America Meditating Blog Talk Radio Show. We collect wisdom, hear stories, and inspire each other. I'm Sister Jenna. Tune in live from Monday through Friday at 8 a.m.
The entire world what?
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And humanity saw that the sky was not the limit. Achievement. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Do you like to meditate? Have you tried to meditate? Have you struggled with meditation? Why don't you visit one of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center? Visit brahmakumaris.org.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?
Hi, neighbor.
Mr. Rogers passed along friendship, hoping we would too. Friendship. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Do you want to power up your day? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Can't manage the speed? Time to get off the grid and get into the heart. A groundbreaking meditation CD for people on the move.
And at this time, I choose to get off the grid and step inside the heart. Welcome, everyone, to the America Meditating Radio Show. I'm your host, Sister Jenna, and we're broadcasting from the beautiful Meditation Museum. I've got little Happy sitting next to me, chewing a little vegetarian bone, and I just can't begin to tell you how much I have been learning with this little pup, and I'll tell you why I'm mentioning Happy. A few days ago, she was so excited, right? And she's just running around having a wonderful time, and she didn't bite anyone, but her teeth are really sharp. She's teething. And I saw when the person sort of went, ouch, ow, Happy, and I saw Happy back off and looking on her victim with so much love and forgiveness, like, I'm so sorry, what happened? And I could see how she walked up to the person just giving love and sweetness. And I thought to myself, do we do that to each other? I mean, have we overcome the pattern of reacting to people's negativity when they fall short? Sometimes they just can't help that moment. And are we forgiving? Do we give that time and space at times? And do we allow something very small to take away our happiness? It's such a valuable quality. There is no nourishment like the nourishment of happiness. And we are in a culture where abundance is definitely obvious. I've been to over 88 countries. I've seen the poorest of the poor, and I have seen the sparkle in their eyes. I see how much we have available to us, and I wonder that, sometimes I don't see the sparkle. It's like I feel like there are desires. There's like, it's not enough. It's just never enough. Sometimes I wonder, having the opportunity of having too much, is that sometimes a curse or a crime, Anyway, thank you all for tuning in to the America Meditating Radio Show. Stay tuned. We're going to have author Gretchen Rubin on, who's one of the most thought-provoking and influential writers of our time. But before I go to Gretchen, why don't we do what we do best on the America Meditating Radio Show, and that is to let it go. Breathe in deeply, inhale, relax, and let's get into our Zen zone. Om Shanti. The time that we choose to be aware doesn't necessarily require me to just sit and meditate. But even while I walk and move around, I can be in a meditative awareness, which is awareness of the soul, the original, eternal, imperishable being of light. For a little while, I'd like to invite you to be present, to be here, and to be now. Allow your mind to settle in the moment, to relax. This meditation is about awareness. It's about becoming aware of your original and eternal self. It's about connecting to your truth. Let go of your name. And observe yourself feeling nameless. Let go of your gender to discontinue thinking you're a man or a woman. Let it go and observe how you would feel walking around without a gender. Let go of the role that you play and let go of the titles that you own. Observe how you're feeling as you are gradually letting go. Let go of your religion and put it aside just for now. And let go of your nationality and even the language that you're accustomed to. Imagine you have no name, gender, role, title, religion, nationality, or even a language. Ask yourself, how do you feel at this moment? And in this feeling, who would think of you and who would you think of? The Supreme Soul would think of you, and you, the liberated soul, would think of the Supreme. In this state of absolute freedom, I am truly who I am. A free, peaceful, pure, immortal, and eternal soul. Allow yourself to just be absorbed in this awareness. At this time,
good day, and it's a beautiful day. Am I living the way I should? This is coming from Just a Moment, and this book can be had at any Brahma Kumari center and, of course, the meditation center. Okay, am I living the way I should? The book is entitled Just a Moment. I cannot know the deep and most beautiful experiences of joy while my thoughts and vision are trapped within the dark gray walls of body. It's trapped in what is called body consciousness. In words, I may rejoice, but do my actions really reveal my beliefs? Am I living my life in accordance with the teachings I follow, whether it be Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, or whatever. Am I adopting spirituality in my dealings with others? Spirituality does not mean sitting in a church or temple 24 hours a day. It means living in the awareness that I, the soul, am a spiritual being, the child of the Supreme, and that all souls are my sisters and brothers. Spirituality means a life with values based on truth rather than the acquisition of objects, a life in which I can understand and appreciate the importance of developing good qualities within myself, divine virtues such as tolerance, cooperation, love, etc. A life in which I can communicate and relate to others with a smile in my eyes and happiness in my voice. A life in which my aim does not have 4 wheels, but my aim is to make the best of the life I am living and to be honest with myself, honest with God, and truthful in my dealings with others. Just a moment, have a pensive day. Oh, shut.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Sister Gita. We heard Letting Go from the Off the Grid Into the Heart CD, and Sister Gita just wooed us with her beautiful voice and also deep readings. Well, we're all excited because our next guest on the American Meditating Radio Show is none other than Gretchen Rubin. She is one of the most thought-provoking and influential writers on habits and happiness. She's the author of several books, including the blockbuster New York Times bestsellers, Better Than Before, The Happiness Project, and Happier at Home. I like that one. She has an enormous readership, both in print and online, and her books have sold more than 2 million copies worldwide in more than 30 languages. Gretchen makes frequent TV appearances and is in much demand as a speaker. On her weekly podcast, Happier with Gretchen Rubin, she discusses good habits and happiness with her sister, Elizabeth Kraft. Rubin started her career in law and was clerking for Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor when she realized she wanted to be a writer. She lives in New York City with her husband and 2 daughters, and we welcome Gretchen Rubin to the America Meditating Radio Show. Hi.
I'm very happy to be talking to you.
Well, same here. You know, one of the things that's coming up a lot is that a lot of folks are feeling they are not where they really want to be. They don't feel their calling. They're not living their purpose. It's just not matching, and they're not being honest with themselves. So you left a successful legal career to pursue a career in writing, which isn't always the one that always pays the mortgage, right? What was that yearning, Gretchen, that you were feeling inside that gave you that courage to make such a big decision?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think that for a lot of people, writing is one of these things where you feel a real call to do it. Not just an interest in it, but kind of a feeling that you have to do it. And people feel a call to do all kinds of things. People feel a call to be farmers. People feel a call to be doctors. Interestingly, I was at a circus, and I was reading the program notes, and it was clear that many of the people who were circus performers had felt a very strong call to become circus performers. And the thing about a call is, in a way, it's wonderful because it's very clear, and there's a feeling like this is absolutely what you have to do, but there's almost a feeling like you don't have any choice. And I came to a very powerful feeling. I was like, at this point, I would rather fail as a writer than succeed as a lawyer. It just became so important to me to try to see if I could do that. At that point, I had an idea for a book that I was already working on, and I just thought this is the time when I should see if I can make that transition.
You know, I think some of the most successful people have gone down that road where you'd rather fail at something rather than to succeed at something that you just don't like. And
yeah.
I've been sharing with a few of my friends about even my own confluence where I'm in a role where I'm actually doing what I love to do. And yet, within that moment or within this cycle that I'm in, I'm feeling a calling for something else. And it's not to stop doing what I'm doing, but it's to do it in another way. And that's been a very interesting place for me of late, Gretchen. So I can really understand when you say, you know, let me at least see if I can succeed at what is that passion that is calling me to either refine whatever I'm doing already or perhaps to do something else completely different.
Yes. It's a powerful feeling.
It is. I know that your work focuses a lot on happiness and good habits. Now, why that particular area of interest? Because a lot of people aren't really focused on good habits, but a lot of people want to be around people with good habits.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I have been writing and talking to people, thinking about happiness for years. And I began to notice that a lot of times when I talk to people about either a big happiness success that they'd had, progress they'd made, or more often a big happiness challenge that they were facing, it often had to do with something that at its core was related to a habit. Like, I'm exhausted all the time. Well, that has to do with the habit of getting enough sleep. Or I love yoga, but somehow I never managed to practice yoga. Why am I not practicing yoga? Well, why aren't you practicing yoga? Again, that's a question about, it's an issue related to habit formation. And so it was through my interest in happiness that really led me to becoming increasingly interested in the role that habits could play in making our lives happier and healthier.
Okay, and looking at your quota of happiness today on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how would you rate your happiness quota right now?
Whenever you study happiness, they ask that all the time, and I just can't do it. I feel like it makes me sort of nuts to try to distill how I am into a number, because I feel like that's so abstract, and I don't know. So I really don't try to put a number on it.
I will tell you why I asked the question, because playing the role of a spiritual person, people expect me to be perfect. And I look at them and I go, keep waiting. It's not going to happen this year.
That's right. Oh, no, that's the truth. Well, they say that research is me-search, and that people teach what they need to learn. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
There you go. And the whole thing for me is I don't know what my final answer will be until I take my last breath. And I think for me that is so important. Well, we want to congratulate you on the release of your new book, yay, and it's entitled Better Than Before, Mastering the Habits of Our Everyday Lives. And in it, you actually refer to habits as the invisible architecture of our everyday lives. Why don't you give us a little bit of a sneak preview on what that actually means?
When researchers look at habits, it turns out that about 40% of our daily life is shaped by our habits. And that is the way in which they're the invisible architecture, because they have this huge influence in just the way our lives are constructed. And if we have habits that work for us, we're far more likely to be happier and healthier. And what I found with habits is that, people are constantly thinking about how to make and break habits. And what I found was that there are 21 different strategies that we can use to make or break our habits. And we use the same strategies, whether we're making them or breaking them. And 21 sounds like a lot, kind of overwhelming, but it's good because it means you can choose the ones that work for you, because some work for some people but don't work for others.
That's good.
Some work at some times of our life but aren't available to us at all times. But what I really found was the key thing was to know ourselves, because a lot of times the experts will say, well, here's the answer, start small. Or here's the answer, do it first thing in the morning. Well, that works for some people but not for everybody. It works sometimes but not all the time. And really the most important thing is to think about what is true for ourselves and what are the circumstances that are going to allow us to achieve the life that we want to have. So when we begin by thinking about what's true for us, then we can think about applying the strategies in a way that is going to allow us to stick to those good habits.
Nice, helpful. You know that in your book you conclude that the way that people respond to expectations is a key question for habit change, and you identify 4 groups that people generally tend to fall into. Why don't you tell us about those 4 groups and why it's so important to know which group you're in? Because have you met a person today that's not expecting something in some form, shape, or sound? And so I think knowing what group we fall into might be important to help us to know ourselves more.
I do think it's a very helpful framework. It's called the 4 Tendencies Framework, and most people can diagnose themselves from just a brief description, but there is a quiz on my site, GretchenRubin.com, for people who want to take a quiz. And it has to do with how you respond to an expectation, an outer expectation like a work deadline, or an inner expectation like your own desire to get back into yoga. So there are four tendencies: upholders, questioners, obligers, and rebels. Upholders readily meet outer and inner expectations. They meet a work deadline, they keep a New Year's resolution without much fuss. And their expectations for themselves are just as important as other people's expectations of them. Then there are questioners. Questioners question all expectations. They'll do something if they think it makes sense. They hate anything arbitrary or irrational or unfair or inefficient. So they make everything into an inner expectation because they'll do something only if they endorse it. Then obligers. Obligers readily meet outer expectations, but they struggle to meet their own inner expectations. Like a friend of mine who said, I don't understand why I can never go running. When I was in high school, I was on the track team, and I never missed track practice. Why can't I go running now? Well, because as an obliger, when she had a team and a coach waiting for her, she had no trouble showing up, but she couldn't go when it was only her own expectation to go running. And then finally, rebels. Rebels resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. They want to do what they want to do when they want to do it, and if you ask or tell them to do something, they're very likely to resist. And these four tendencies are very helpful in understanding our natures generally, but also in terms of how to form habits. For instance, for a person who's an obliger, and that is the largest tendency, the most people fall into that tendency, the key to keeping inner expectations, and most habits are inner expectations, is external accountability. Once they put in that external accountability, they have no trouble doing it. So a person who couldn't get himself to go running for years, if he signs up with a trainer or he takes a class where the instructor takes attendance, or he goes exercising with a friend who's going to be disappointed if he doesn't show up, or if he thinks about his duty to be a role model for his children, modeling healthy behavior, he's going to be able to do it because he's got that external accountability. With a rebel, though, if let's say you're a doctor trying to get your patient to take blood pressure medication, the more you tell that rebel, you have to do this, you need to do this, I'm telling you, you've got to take your medicine, the more you're going to ignite in that rebel a spirit of resistance. So you want to talk to them in a very different way.
That's what's been happening to me. Okay, got it.
Do you know what your tendency is?
I'm a little bit between the rebel and the obliger.
Well, that's interesting because there's a very deep affinity between obligers and rebels. And, in fact, of all rebels, almost without exception, if a rebel is in a long-term relationship, romantic relationship, it's with an obliger. That seems to be the pairing that almost always is the one that can work. And also, obligers have an interesting pattern of behavior, which is obliger rebellion, which is they will meet expectations, and then suddenly, almost arbitrarily, they'll say, this I won't do. I'm snapping. I'm putting my foot down here. I will not do it. Sometimes it can be kind of a small and symbolic thing. Sometimes it can be a very destructive kind of exploding of what's going on.
Wow, I love that. You know, we are struggling with ourselves every moment of the day. Some of us know about it and some of us don't. And why I mentioned the struggle, it's like there's always a level of awareness or consciousness that we can always come from, which I call like the deity in you, that being that's just filled with virtues, you know. You walk into the room and no one even hears your feet touching the ground because you're so in your power. You know, you're just gliding. You're just force. Now, there are common habits that make us heavy, that you walk into a room, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you know, you want your case to be brought up, you know, to people's attention, whatever the reasons might be. A lot of us have habits, and some of them are not good for us. And what are the most common habits that you have observed in people that they need to change? And why is the struggle always there?
Well, that's very interesting. You know, I think of all the habits, it seems like the habits that people want to form fall into 7 big categories, and I think these are the ones that tend to weigh people down, either because they're worried about it or because there's something about the habit that's not helpful. One is eating and drinking more healthfully, exercising regularly, saving, spending, and earning wisely, you know, everything related to money, being able to rest, relax, and enjoy, you know, having a sense of true rest and disengagement, accomplishing more, stop procrastinating, you know, like if there's something, an important aim in your life and you're unable to move forward in it, that's very frustrating. Creating simplicity, you know, cleaning, clearing, organizing so you don't feel overwhelmed with stuff. And then finally, engaging more deeply in relationships, whether that's relationships with other people or relationships with God or relationships with nature, having that feeling of a deep engagement. So I think those are the areas that tend to weigh people down. And, you know, if you had mastered all those areas in your habits, I think you would have a very free and fulfilling life. And now, why is it that it's hard to do these things?
it's like the struggle is always there, and I'm not quite sure in terms of where does that struggle come from? Why is it often there?
Well, it's very puzzling because it's perhaps easy to see why it's hard to have a habit of something you don't enjoy doing, but why is it often just as hard to have a habit of something you love to do? And why is there that struggle? I think part of it is that we're very good at thinking of loopholes. So a loophole is when it's not that you're saying that you don't want to have a particular habit. You want to go to bed on time. You want to put your cell phone down when you're with your kids. You want to get up early every morning and read spiritual books. But with a loophole, it's in the spur of the moment, you think of a justification why just this once, off the hook. And we are these incredible advocates when it comes to ourselves and our habits and these loopholes. There are 10 categories of loopholes. So you might say, like, well, I'm not going to do it today, but starting tomorrow I'm going to do it. That's the tomorrow loophole. Or you might say, I've been so good about doing this, I deserve a day off. That's the moral licensing loophole. Or you could say, well, I could have this habit, but it might inconvenience other people, or it might hurt their feeling, or it might disrupt their routine. That's the concern for others loophole. Or there's the fake self-actualization loophole. That's things like, oh, you only live once? I can't do how can I do this on such a beautiful day? Life's too short not to do this. So we're incredibly skillful at thinking of why we should let ourselves off the hook. And so one of the strategies that I suggest is just recognizing these loopholes. Most of us have a few favorites, I must say. My own favorite is the false choice loophole. And so that when you feel yourself turning away from that habit that you know is the healthier habit, the happier habit, you can say, wait a minute, I'm going to reject this loophole because I'm going to see that I'm trying to let myself off the hook at the spur of the moment, but really I'm not making the decision that's going to make me happiest overall.
Again, the whole important thing of questioning yourself honestly and feeling or knowing that you do have the courage to step up for yourself, perhaps when you need yourself the most. Gretchen, I've been enjoying our conversation together, really. I think it's so important, and I'm encouraging all of our listeners to really take the 21 Days to Change a Habit program. You want to tell us a little bit more as to where we can get information on that, in a sense that, because a lot of people say it takes 21 days to change a habit, and you've got 21 steps in your book. And so let us know where we can find the book. And before you leave me, please leave me with your favorite life quote that you're living by currently.
Right. Well, there's a huge amount of information about happiness and good habits on my website, which is called GretchenRubin.com. And my books, there are links to buying my books there, or you can buy them wherever you usually buy books. I also have a new podcast. I do it with my sister. We've only been doing it for about 5 months, but we've already had more than 2 million downloads, which is very exciting. It's called Happier with Gretchen Rubin, and we talk about happiness and good habits. And we're sisters, so we don't let each other off the hook. And I also have a monthly newsletter and a daily happiness quotation. I love quotations. I'm thrilled that you asked me about my favorite quotation because I've got a million of them. And so people can sign up if they want to get one every day from my gigantic trove of quotations. And I think I have so many that I live by, but I think the one that I've been living by lately is a wonderful quote from Johnson where he said, "He who would find the wealth of the Indies must bring the wealth of the Indies with him," meaning that you can go in search of something, but if you don't find it within yourself, you will never find it.
Powerful. That is so true, too, isn't it? Oh, that's so beautiful. Gretchen Rubin, thank you so much for being with us on the air and wishing you all the continued best. But when you come to Washington, D.C., you must present something at the Meditation Museum.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much. I hope to come by soon.
You're welcome. Beautiful. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So it's in you. Are you one of the 4 types? I mean, I could find myself resonating with the rebel and the one who obliges, and I don't know what you thought you were, but I think it's important for us to get a handle on ourselves so we don't waste a lot of time in the muck and the waste and just feeling like disheveled and outside of ourselves. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation with myself and Gretchen, and if you'd like some more information, just go to GretchenRubin.com for more information. And like